Open session public meetings are subject to being recorded. Your image and voice will be recorded. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:01. And we have a guest tonight from Bread and Roses. They manage the down payment program in North Andover. So hopefully, if you could give us just an overview of how things work on your end. I know you've moved on, but how things work in North Andover and what might be helpful starting the program and different things like that. That would be really great.
Yeah, absolutely. And my understanding is that Berlin's going to administer the program, correct?
We actually have reached out. We do have one potential person to sort of manage it for us. One of the questions that I know I had was whether North Andover had to do an RFP to hire you to manage the program, or how that relationship worked.
So that was before me. We do have an MOU. We have an MOU because it's under the $10,000 threshold. Mm-hmm. I don't think you really have to do an RFP, but I'm not your city or town. Oh. So Bread and Roses received $1,000 per application, up to $1,000 per application for managing the process. Okay. And we would only do one or two a year. So at most we were getting $2,000 a year. So I think that's something I'd be happy to share with Beth at some point, our MOU.
Okay.
That we have with the town of North Andover. I'm happy to send that along. That's sort of why I asked, like, are you looking to administer it entirely, or are you looking to sort of outsource it, and then what would fall to the town of Berlin? So I'll sort of walk you through the program itself.
Okay.
So the town of North Andover has a down payment assistance program, which allows up to $30,000 of down payment assistance to individuals who are buying homes in the town. So you don't have to live in the town. You have to buy a home in the town. And you have to become income eligible. And so income eligibility is up to 110% above the area median income. And the area median income is determined by the HUD standards. So you go on HUD.gov, you get your AMIs, and that's how you sort of figure out that threshold. It is for down payment assistance. So this can be used if somebody gets like a mass housing product. This can be used in conjunction with that. And when somebody applies, they have to meet those income guidelines. They have to complete a first-time home buyer class. There are certain criteria they have to go through. There is a lien placed on the property that depreciates over time. So that if they decide to sell it in 5 years, they do have to pay back a portion of that amount that they got. It's up to $30,000. It's 10% of the purchase price. So if the purchase price is $400,000, they would get the max at $30,000. If the purchase price was $250,000, they would get $25,000. So a lot of times we see this down payment assistance program help people who are buying condos or who are buying affordable units within the town that are already deemed affordable through other resources. And this is for home ownership.
So you do this not just for affordable homes?
No, it's not just for affordable homes, but what we have seen historically in North Andover is it's either somebody who's buying a condo or somebody who is buying an affordable home.
Okay.
So Andover has numerous homes that were built in condo complexes that were built and sold at the affordable rate. Mm-hmm. Because again, you can't go above that 110% income guideline.
Okay.
right? So you're sort of looking at this this group of people who, you know, in order to get into their first house, you know, they're just above the area median income, and then they need to, you know, get the down payment assistance. So oftentimes they're not, you know, really qualifying for those higher end houses because you're looking at the total household income. So if there's two people on the application, if there are two people buying the house, both people's incomes need to be included on the application.
Okay.
So it's the gross income for both, for whomever is buying the house. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So you have to be a first-time home buyer, complete the home buyer education. Your assets can't exceed $75,000. It has to be, the purchase has to be intended for your primary residence. And you have to put down no less than 1.5% of your own money.
Mm-hmm.
And it says earned household income at or below 100%. You can go up to like 110, but you know, it's between you know, we don't usually get people at the 100%. Other programs go up to the 110. So what happens is, you know, somebody will go ahead and fill out the application, which is really simple, and then they have to submit 3 years worth of tax returns, bank statements, pay stubs. And there's a whole laundry list of information they need to submit. You know, because what we do is we can go ahead and pre-approve somebody. And that pre-approval letter is good for 6 months. So if somebody says, okay, we're looking at Berlin, we haven't really finalized where we're going to buy yet, but we can go ahead and say, we're going to, you know, do the application and get you pre-approved for up to $30,000. And then when they find the house, it's a lot easier for them to then get the financing going because they already have that letter.
Okay.
Other things is that it has to be a fixed rate mortgage through an institutional lender. So it's not like somebody can get a private lender. The fixed rate can't be more than 2% points above the current Mass Housing Finance Agency interest rate and have no more than 2 points on it. And there can't be a cosigner. So you can't like say, oh, my aunt's going to cosign for me, even though she's not going to live there.
Okay.
Okay.
How do people find out about the program?
That's a great, I heard that question. How do people find out? So we do a lot of, you know, social media, and then we would do a lot, like you also want to publicize it in your local whatever news that you use. We would do Facebook posts on both the town of North Andover as well as the our website. And then I think the other thing too is really connecting with your realtors that really sort of service that town, because it's going to help them. It's going to help them if they see a buyer come in that might be from, I'm going to pick my town, Amesbury, coming to buy in Berlin. They're not going to know that there's a down payment assistance program. So you want to get to your realtors and you want to get to the local banks too. And then you can also notify, you know, places like Mass Housing and other places. We're on a registry for down payment assistance programs as a clearinghouse so that people know about it. So it's really just making sure that it gets out there through social media and other avenues. What else about the program? It's pretty straightforward. Once we get the application, we would do all that processing. The town goes ahead and writes up the deed restriction, and again, we can go ahead and share that with you, what the town of North Andover does. And those deed restrictions go in at closing, so that people know that, you know, it's gonna, and it gets filed, all that there's a lien on the property, or a, you know, on the property for $30,000, let's say, but that it depreciates over time. So that when the house does go up for sale again, either it's gone by then or it's going to get paid back. whatever percentage.
Who writes the check when the check goes? How does that?
Yep, so the town writes the check
Okay.
because it goes through the housing trust. So the town writes the check. So we would get like the W-9 from whoever's taking it. It's usually the lawyer, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd get a W-9 from the lawyer, send it over to the town. We have the PNS, all that goes to the town. We have the bank statement. I have that. I think I sent that letter, which I think you should have. That will all get. We need the appraisal, the home inspection, the credit report, the HUD settlement statement,
Mhm.
Copy of the mortgage, all that.
Inspection.
So I would submit the W-9, the attorney who's getting the check, as well as showing the breakdown of the mortgage, where the down payment assistance is going into. And then the town would cut the check. I personally would pick up the check and I would go to closing and hand over the check. Just to add, because if you're paying me
Right.
to process something, I'm going to process it.
Yeah.
And it adds that extra touch. And then I get pictures. And then I
Mhm.
send it to the town.
Mhm.
I have its photo disclosure, send it to the town, and it's a great, like, oh, look we have a great new homeowner that
Mhm.
we were able to help.
Okay.
And it's great. And Beth did send the letter, so we have it in our emails. I think
So
it's just-
sometimes those checks would have to come outside the warrant cycle. As much as I would try and get them in like 2 weeks in advance, sometimes you don't know
Mhm.
until, when the closing date is. But oftentimes I would just try and get them ahead of time and either pick it up. They would lock up the check until I was ready for it, or I would come and lock it up. But that check does not go over to the attorney until I walk it in at closing.
Okay. Do you guys have other questions?
Yeah, so when people are applying, can you hear me okay?
Mhm.
Okay. When people are applying for the program, how are they, how are you determining, it's obviously not a lottery system, is it first come, first serve? And how much funds are available, or?
Yeah, exactly. So the housing trust sets aside X amount of dollars, and I keep administering it until I'm told there's no more money for it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And
So as long as somebody qualifies, you kind of go ahead.
We
Right.
go ahead, because if, let's say you're going to set aside, you're going to cap it, let's say, and you don't have to cap it at 30,000. You can cap it at 20,000. The town of Haverhill, I think, has it at 6,000. It's really what you all decide you want to cap it at. So let's say you're setting aside 100,000 and you say, ideally, we want to help 5 families. You could cap it at 20,000.
Hmm.
And each year,
You know, and
does it vary? Sorry, for the number of applications that you've gotten over the years, is there an average amount that you could determine?
So I would say, since I've been here, I've done 2, and I've been here a year and a half.
Okay.
So it's about 1 a year.
Yep. Okay.
And like I said, both people who qualified, let me back that bus up. I had 3 people qualified, 1 couldn't find a house in her price range. The 2 that I provided checks for also were buying affordable houses,
Mhm.
condos, that were on the affordable list. So I think it's really understanding that you're going to probably be helping people that are only going to be able to really purchase,
Mhm.
a condo,
I think that
No,
really
but-
limits
sort of
that
under that,
program.
$350,000 point price.
Mm-hmm.
It does, although in this town we've lost some 40Bs because they couldn't find a qualified buyer, and a couple of people what they're missing was down payment, and so people who were missing down payment, we lost some 40Bs out of it. But
So it's a way to
Yeah,
maintain.
it's
Yeah.
a safety net to maybe broaden
Yeah.
our pool a little bit
Mhm.
and make it so that that is not the
Because it's
the
not
factor that-
necessarily the gap
Right.
fix.
Well, I think
In
we might
general.
start with tighter requirements and then loosen up a little bit if we don't get any applicants, then decide we want 120% of area median instead of 110, or, you know, we make it more attractive so it's 10,000 instead of 6. I don't think we've set either the dollar amount yet
No.
or the income levels, so.
Mm.
Because we're a much smaller town. If they're only seeing one or two
Right.
a year, you
Yeah.
know, that we're probably going to see one a year. And so the administration of it might not be overly burdensome.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of inventory
Yeah, there's not a lot of inventory in the
for
town.
people
no.
to choose from. And that's kind of what I'm thinking is,
Yeah.
even
For
if
me-
we have qualified
No.
people.
Our upside is that we have like a handful of very active real estate agents in town
Yes.
who like selling things in town. And so if
Yeah.
we got it to that handful of people and they got it to their, because I think they all work at even different real estate agencies, and so they got it to their places, I think we could get the word out even through some of them.
I have one more question. Now, so Bread and Roses in the town of Andover, they set the max at 110% AMI, but is that up to the town or is that okay? So that's up to the town. So if we wanted, for whatever reason, just making up numbers, wanted to set it at 120% AMI in order to increase
This
that
is coming out
threshold.
of your housing trust, it's not
Yeah.
home funds, right?
it's it's the housing trust, so we have to be
Yeah,
very
I think
careful
you just
about
have
that
to look at what the
parameter.
housing trust does,
Okay,
Mm.
what the guidelines are
got it.
for
Okay,
income.
okay.
Yeah.
Like, did your housing trust, when it was incorporated, say, oh, we're gonna help people, you know, up to 120% AMI, or does it even, it might
It's
not
like
even
It doesn't-
80%.
It doesn't
Right.
specify, does it?
It does.
Or,
I don't
okay.
think it specifies.
Mm-mm.
The housing production plan talks a lot about
So we're
80%.
trying to go within what, like, what we would call the workforce
Mm-hmm.
group.
Mhm.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? And that's that income that we're
Mhm.
looking at.
Okay.
Right. My dog's trying to get my attention.
And you think $1,000 per application was reasonable?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, because we would want to, if we end up working with the organization that we've spoken to, it helps to know what we're talking about.
Yeah, because, I mean, you're meeting with them, you're collecting all the information, you're also the keeper of the records, right? So I maintain the record. You know, and I think you can say things like, we want you at the closing. We want you to hand deliver the check. We want,
Mhm.
those are the things that we really want to make sure are on top of it, if that's what you want.
Okay. I guess the one thing, if you can send over the memorandum of understanding that you're using and the deed restriction.
Yeah. Yeah, I can get those over to Beth probably in the next couple days. I'll just have to redact my deed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
No worries.
Yep.
We want to go into, make sure we go into town meeting, kind of knowing where we're heading, and this has been really, really helpful.
Yeah, it really is a great program. I think it would also, and I know one of your housing trust people there is, I think a good question is, are you selling houses that people in the workforce can purchase?
Hmm.
Do you have stock? Do you know what I mean? That you're going to be able, because I don't know what Berlin's,
Yeah.
price
Really?
points are.
Yeah. Well, we're at about 15% with our affordables, but just in general, housing stock in town is really tight.
Right.
And I think average
Right.
is an average up close to 7 now.
Yeah.
I mean, do you sell houses between the 250 and the 400,000?
James Holyoke had one on the market last week.
And it was gone in
Yeah.
30 seconds?
I know it's gone in 30
Or
seconds, but
before it was listed? Yeah.
there was one. The 240Bs up in my universe.
Yeah.
But like the 40B, right,
Right.
those would be great ones, right? Because they're affordable.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's where you're going to help.
Yeah, and that is our goal. Like we said, we've lost affordables before because, you know, there just wasn't a buyer that fit into the very narrow that could also handle all of the criteria. Because you can only get that money from certain places and all of the different things. So this would be sort of that stopgap would be the thought. So
Right,
that they
and
don't
I
go off
also-
the rolls.
It's also my responsibility, and I think this is something that you can work with whoever takes on, and I don't think it's in the MOU, but we make sure that they're getting into like a mass housing product,
Mhm.
like the one mortgage, so that they're not stuck with like PMI.
Mhm.
Okay.
So we're making sure that we're also sort of not, I don't want to say case managing, but consulting with the home buyer to make sure they're getting the best mortgage product they can. And I think, you know, with this bond bill that's coming out from the governor, there's going to be a lot more money put into that one mortgage kind of program for people to purchase. So I think that's something you need to make sure you write into the MOU, is that you're going to ensure that they, you know, you might want them to advertise first-time home buyer classes, you know, things of that nature. In that you want them to help with the not case management, but, you know, ensuring that they're referred to the proper financial resources that they can access. And then there was another one stop. They also, did I tell you they have to get a home inspection?
No, it was in the letter you sent Beth. So,
Yeah, so one that's come up on a couple cases because some home buyers have waived it given the market. And we understood that, but we still made them, even though they had a signed P&S and they waived it, they still had to get that home inspection. And the reason why is we want to ensure that that home was livable when they moved in.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
No, this was quite helpful.
Yeah,
Thank
is
you so
there,
much.
Is there anything else you think we should know, or?
I commend you for moving forward with this. It is a fantastic program. And I think you're going to benefit so many people by doing this, and your community. You're going to really bring up the health of the community. And, you know, please have Beth reach out to me if you have any other questions.
Will do. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
very much.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. That was very helpful.
Yeah.
I have a better idea of how this should look now. So.
It seems less complicated than I thought
Yeah.
it might be, but I still worry about our inventory of possibilities of people
Yeah, so.
being able to grab something.
We could go 5 years and not use it.
Right.
But it's there if
I
it's
like
needed.
yes.
I mean, I think it's, I'd love to see it help a bunch of people, but it's also sort of the image of the town trying to help and keep things affordable.
To preserve it.
Right, and again, I think we have some
I think
real
that's
estate agents in
important.
town who, you know, would, I think it would help them try to sell some things in town and actually help diversify town a little bit. And again, we lost a couple 40Bs up in Mosaic because and there were people really wanted in, really had the credit score, just swinging the down payment was not something that they could put
Right.
together.
Yes,
And they wouldn't
it's
have
hard
needed
to have it all.
30,000 either. I think for especially one of those things, I think the one that was in the market that's been pulled off was what, 170, 180, you know, and so even at a 10%, that's 18,000, and probably even a 10,000 down payment would have made a difference there.
And they have to put in 1.5% of their own.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I like the safety net of it
yep.
to preserve it.
Yeah.
And so when we mention like someone would be processing the applications, who would that be, the Assabet?
Yeah,
Yes.
we had talked to Assabet,
Okay.
and that's why I was asking whether
Yep.
they had to do an RFP to get somebody, but it
Yeah,
sounds
less
like
than
it's less
10,000
than.
a year, right,
That's why I was wondering how much they paid them to.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that puts us under that's a lot easier than
yep.
an RFP.
So, what did she call it? MOU?
It's memorandum
Memorandum
of
of
understanding.
Okay.
Sort
Yeah.
of contract-like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That's very cool.
So yeah, we could just decide unless I don't know of anybody else in our direct
No, I
area, which is why we went to
Right.
them to begin with. So, and we already have a pre-existing relationship. So my guess is if we could work something out with them, we would probably
Right.
do it just to streamline.
Mhm.
And they already help with 40Bs, and so they would be in the best position to know someone who's in that, gosh, if I
Yeah.
could only get some help with the down payment, I could have had this 40B unit.
Yeah. So good.
Cool. Yeah.
Sounds like it's coming together. All right.
I wonder if that would come into play with our habitat.
Right.
It could.
It would if
You know, because
first
it sounds like you can combine.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Mhm.
Scott. What?
Yeah. No, no,
Oh.
if the Habitat probably has someone already in mind who could,
Yeah.
yes, it would help with that one.
Yeah.
Right, I have the documents for the declaration of trust
Yeah.
that we all have to sign.
I
So-
thought that had been done a long time ago.
Oh no,
I was so surprised.
Yeah, I don't think I need to sign since I was at
you
the.
do have to
I
sign.
thought I got
Oh no,
mine.
you got it. Never mind.
I
You
just
don't.
said-
Okay, so
Because I was
we
at
have
the
to do
meeting
both
that
of
was
these.
passed,
This
I
one
signed
is
both
the
places.
awesome. This one too. And then I think the next step on that was to actually talk to, we need an account. Our accounting is a little different because we were a trust.
Right.
It looked like the treasurer was supposed to do that. I'm not sure how we're handling trust in town currently.
I don't either.
But also, once money goes in, my impression was it does not come out because it is a trust. The accounting is different.
Right, it's not like an expense line where it disappears at the end of the year. It
Yeah.
stays there until we
Or like,
we have the down payment assistance or that we decide to give the money to somebody. But it's a vote of us that takes the money out.
yeah. But it's not like it would ever return to the general fund
Right,
or
it does not.
that sort of thing.
Yep.
It stays where it is.
And interest on it goes back to the account.
Interesting. Okay. And I'll need to get Beth, and then I will make sure these get notarized and where they need to go.
Yay.
Okay. Did anybody go to any meetings or anything this time around?
Josepha held her, that's now gonna be a monthly meeting of all the towns that she does work for, just to have everyone sort of give updates of what's going on in their towns and feedback of how things are going in front of what officially is her boss, the CMRPC sort of folks. We seem to have as much action going on in our town as any of the other towns. There wasn't a lot of projects that were super relevant for us. Auburn's working on their MBTA. And Grafton's working on that as well. Both of them thought actually it was going to be fine. They're in front of town meeting, but they're thinking that's going to go okay. One town is working, they don't have a housing trust. All their housing trust stuff is done through the CPA committee, and so they're debating whether or not they should be
So
doing that.
that's probably their next step,
Yeah,
is to put
yeah.
together a housing trust.
She's working on the storyboard stuff for the first town, and she thought she'd have it done soon, and then working those. But she sent us a link of, I don't know if you've seen the email. She said that I was impressed by what she'd put together.
Is
Sorry.
this the,
That's an alarm.
I saw the thing about the housing production
Yeah,
plan.
that's
Is
the
there-
one.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, it was really nice. I'll
Yeah.
make sure that it gets up on the website.
Yeah.
Did she happen to say anything about the thing we had asked her to do, just highlighting our internal stuff?
No, and I forgot to raise it too. So.
Okay.
And this meeting had sort of dropped off her radar a little bit, and so I was able to fix that, but not enough time for her to get here tonight. But she should be here next month.
Okay, good. Do we have any other tasks that it might make sense to have her do? She's doing the SHI, right, and keeping that
Yep.
up to date. I don't think any of us managed to go to the accessory dwelling unit thing. I thought that was a webinar, and then there was no link, and
Right.
it looked like it was in person when I went and
Oh.
looked. So, and by the time I looked and saw that
Right.
it was in person, I'm like,
Mm.
I
No, you
can't
couldn't
get there.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it said
I couldn't
webinar.
have done it- I
Right.
couldn't have done it in person anyway, so.
Yeah.
I'm-
So maybe they
What-
recorded it or did
Yeah.
something. That would be nice. Because I think that is something that obviously
I
that's
would
under
have
the
liked to
purview
seen
of the
that.
planning board, but
Right.
it's something that we could
Yeah.
weigh in on.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And probably should weigh in on.
The donuts with delegates, the consortium meeting, there wasn't a lot. There was, not much was said. It was a very
Okay.
inactive meeting and brief. Tim was on that too, but, I didn't have any real takeaway from it, honestly.
Good.
And I don't know when the next meeting is.
I'm assuming they email you or something, right?
Well, yeah, usually we set it, but the Donuts with Delegates wasn't, it was just an open
Right.
forum, so we didn't discuss a future meeting. But yeah, she'll email something, probably April, I think.
Who were your delegates? Who was there?
I can't even find it in my notes, I'm so sorry.
It's fine.
It was.
That's okay.
Mm.
I'm just curious if it was relevant, if it
A
was our
gentleman,
delegates or somebody else.
Yeah,
'cause,
no,
yeah.
yeah, I actually have the email of who was there, but I
Okay.
That's fine.
No worries.
didn't get a lot out of it.
Okay, do we have anything on 9 Village Lane? I know
It's-
that was in
It's
a
no
weird
longer on the
flux.
market.
Okay.
As we sit right now, it is not on the market.
Okay,
The
and
current owner has staved off foreclosure
Foreclosure.
and sales, and hopefully it's a permanent sort of thing she's put together, but at least for a bit, it's not available.
okay, good. Good. And there was also 29, right? Or there's another.
There's 29, I don't know where that one is at. That has been in a strange state for a couple of years now, so.
Okay. Yeah, it would be nice if, right now, I get notified if the town is notified.
Right.
But yeah, it'd be nice if there was someplace we could sort of keep track of or,
Yep, yep,
sorry.
yep.
Yeah, how does that work? Like, how do we know if they come on the market? Are they mandated to?
Normally, I think they have to notify the town because it's
Right.
deed restricted. And then I get an email. that
Usually I
it's-
thought.
Because
after that-
there has to be a first right of refusal
Yeah.
that happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Through the town, so we do
We
sort of
do,
get notified.
Yeah.
But after that, it's sort of.
What
we don't
happened
know.
is this particular one, first went on the market a couple years ago, and so, it's languished, and so what its current state is, and there's been, there's some messiness involved. I don't know if I need to say more in a public meeting, but,
So would that notice have expired by this
Well,
point? I mean.
no, because once you write a first refusal, it's there
It's-
until sort of it's sold.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then there's a deed restriction that, to keep it affordable.
Mhm.
And as long as you sell it again as affordable, you're back at sort of square one again.
Hmm.
How
Fish-
we've lost them is not being able to sell them
Right.
as affordable if a certain period of time goes by and you're not able to sell
Find
them.
someone qualified.
Right.
Then
Right.
And that's a short period of time?
I thought it's like only
60.
90 days,
Yeah.
Mm.
but that because of the messiness in this property, that's not the reason why it's not sold, isn't not the lack of a buyer.
Right.
yeah. As far as I know, and you can
Right.
clarify, but our stuff is on the warrant.
Yep,
Um,
our stuff is on the warrant. The warrant, there's a draft warrant on the town website that includes our motions. The final warrant probably is not done until Monday because of things that aren't related to our two articles. I don't expect, they moved the coffee talk to April 25th. because April 18th, which we were planning on doing on, is school vacation week. And we decided that doing it during school vacation week probably wasn't as great.
Where's the coffee talk?
Coffee Talk will be hybrid, and so it'll be both in the room, just the end of the hallway, and online.
Are you gonna step through the articles at that one, or?
We're
how are you
supposed to
doing
step
it?
through the articles. I think there are, so the number of articles for town meeting is lower than average. But I think the articles that could have messiness and serious discussion and debate is probably higher than average. And so I don't think ours is one of them, but it also, people could be cranky by the time they get to ours or not, depending on how other things go. I don't think it's a secret that the school board recommended budget and the town recommended budget are significantly different from each other. And so that's likely to be a serious discussion at town meeting. There are some capital items that are some really sort of out of the box, creative thinking to improve the town forward, but also a significant chunk of money. And whether or not you think the cost benefit there could be questionable. And so we're expecting some of those to be more hotly debated. River Bridge is back on the agenda for a fourth amendment, and those have always been wild cards. You never know where they're going to go. Even though
This one is town sponsored though, right?
this
Or
is town
was
sponsored, and in some
negotiation
respects
with the town?
winds down the relationship with the Sennies with an agreement of cash and land and forgivenesses and other stuff that no one's really thrilled about, but gets the relationship sort of to the end of the end of the line. So, and so again, I'm kind of hoping ours. Sadly, I think also because there might be some bitter debates at town meeting. The look at this really cool things the housing trust is going to do probably gets lost in the morass of some of the stuff as well. And so. But again, I think that's what we do the coffee talk for, is just to get a sense, because there's always a town meeting, there's always an article that out of left field suddenly becomes controversial we didn't know about, and there's something we go into it going, oh, this is going to like take an hour, and no one stands up and opposed, and it passes 80% to 20%, and we just move on. So I've yet to see a town meeting not surprise me about some article somewhere.
Somewhere,
Yeah. But probably we should all try to
Yep.
attend that one, either hybrid or
Yep.
in person.
That's the
Um,
25th, right?
That's the 25th,
Okay.
and so likely on the select board meeting of the 15th, we'll probably sit down and talk about who we think is talking about what articles at what time, and I don't know if it will end up falling to me because I'm already sitting in front of the table, or pulling in one of you folks. Again, I think it's going to be 20 to 50 seconds. I don't think we're talking about a long discussion.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, there are a couple places the property transfer and the.
Right.
So a couple places where it needs to be discussed.
Yep. And then for us at our this April meeting is at town meeting, someone will have to go to the floor to actually make the motion.
I do that,
Thank you.
And
The chair normally
Thank
does
you.
that. It's really not, it's just.
Well, thank you anyway.
Yeah.
For being
and,
there.
and then it's another chance to just not only make the motion, but after you make the motion, get a chance to speak in favor of it. So here's another chance to talk
And
about
I'll-
the work the Housing Trust
yeah.
is doing and over. And you probably could even ahead of time talk to Barry, going like, look, this is the first time the Housing Trust has had motions, and so can I go a little off topic and talk about what the Housing Trust does as a whole and why we're here, sort of stuff.
And Carolyn also offered to come from Habitat
Okay, good.
to talk about
Oh,
that.
that'd be
so
nice.
Good, yep.
In case there are any questions
Yep.
that we can't field or whatever. So she already offered.
That's
great.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would very much like this to
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
go forward and work with us. So
Good.
Awesome.
They will help however they can.
And Randall Road, did I overhear that, or was that at Selectmen's meeting, that you had spoken to Board of Health or Paul about perk?
I sent Paul an email, and his response was there hadn't been a formal perk test, but Mark Rhodes had done a perk test informally at one point that had been fine. So we would have to go through Bill Brookings to have it perk tested. But the his anticipation, my sense was that it was probably going to be fine because it had already sort of had that sort of unofficial test.
Okay. I can't re-perk same holes, but okay.
Yep.
Eh,
Yeah.
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 Well, I mean, worst case scenario,
Right.
we would sign the property back to the town
Right.
and it would sit there and do what it's doing now, which
Right.
is
It's
nothing.
a nice spot.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a great house lot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's a good location. It's a good organization. It puts something back in the tax rolls. There's a lot of
Mhm.
good for this.
Yeah.
Yep.
all right. What else we have? Does anybody have anything further?
Mhm.
No?
I think so.
All right. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Oh.